Welcome to another edition of My Life in Football. And of course, joining me today is, of course, Eddie, the manager from North Leigh. And Eddie, it's great to see you. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, very well.
You notice I didn't even try and attempt to say your last name because I knew I'd get it wrong. So I thought if I stick with Eddie, it'll make my life a lot easier. But I mean, mate, first of all, congratulations on promotion and, fantastic achievement for you and the club, and a massive congratulations on that. But I mean, I was just doing a bit of research earlier on, and I was quite surprised when I looked on it. I thought, I wonder if Eddie's got a Wikipedia page, and bing, there it is, right in front of me. I don't know if you knew that, but you've actually got that page on there. But I mean, how did football first start for you, Eddie? What was the first time that Eddie got involved in football?
I got four brothers, so it's at home. That's where it starts. Yeah. You start making a football pitch out of anything, and anywhere, and playing with anything, and so it was all at home, and in the back garden and in the park, and playing with the older boys. So that's where my ground was, trying to avoid getting kicked by the older boys, which back in the day I had a bit of pace, and it was probably brought on by that. So, like probably most people, trying to emulate your brothers, trying to emulate what you see on TV. And then it was soon after that, my brothers were all in the School of Excellence at Oxford, Oxford United, and I guess I followed suit.
I mean, was you playing for like a local team and then got scouted from there, or was it something that you was just playing with your brothers? They saw you and you got in that way?
Yeah, I played local football all the way up to under 12s, and I think that's when you had to commit to playing for the Centre of Excellence. But up until then, in Oxford, playing local football, which I absolutely loved, and then I would have been about 9, 10, where I started training and playing with Oxford United School of Excellence, and stayed with them until I was 15. Moved from there to Southampton.
I mean, what was that like, though, Eddie, going into, just sort of playing sort of locally and whatever else, and then going into a centre of excellence? Was there a lot different sort of mindset from playing sort of for your Saturday, Sunday team to going into that, going training in that centre of excellence at Oxford? Was it a bit of an eye opener for you, or was you used to that because of knowing what your brothers were going through?
Yeah, I've probably had introductions to it. So playing Saturday, Sunday, it's all your mates. You see each other at school all the time, and you're really, really, really close. You go to a centre of excellence and you've got to form relationships. So you're kind of playing for yourself a bit more but then we started so young, that became second nature, and my centre of excellence players, teammates became my mates at that point, and then you go for it that way. So the transition for me was really quite simple.
I mean, from Oxford, it says then, of course, that you moved on to Southampton in 2003. Was that you moved, or was that just something that you decided that somebody saw you in Southampton and asked you to go down to there?
Yes, it was the same scout, known very well in Oxford, and he's now nationally known. Malcolm Elias. He signed me at Oxford. He's a family friend, as it happened as well. He signed all my brothers, and then he went to Southampton along with a couple of other staff who knew me from Oxford. And when that opportunity came about, it was again, that was a pretty simple decision to make as well.
I mean, again, what was that? Was that sort of, did you see that from Oxford to Southampton as a big step up?
It was, because so when you've been at Oxford in the Centre of Excellence for so long, and these are the times here you only recruited from your catchment area, really. You'll get players from Oxfordshire, so you are going to be one of the best players. You're going to be one of the best players no matter what, really. What I realised when I got to Southampton is that I was just another player. I was surrounded by internationals or players who were known already nationally because of how good they were, and you're getting players who are international players as well. So players from different cultures, from different countries. So it just expands from being a local, from a excellent local player to a player in amongst other players. So it's like it's not needle and haystack. It's a needle in a bed of other needles, isn't it? Yeah, what you had to do at that point, which was probably best, what you had to do is really work on other skills and have a whole game. And it wasn't good enough to be a one-trick pony. What I had to do is find some things which I could really excel at. And for me, it was probably my fitness, my energy, and versatility and ability to use both feet. That's probably the things which I concentrate on. If I can be as good as I can in those areas, I might have a chance.
I think you're undercooking yourself a little bit, mate, if I'm honest, because I've just read here, it says here, Eddie started his schoolboy career at Oxford before later becoming a trainee with Southampton, where he played in the same youth team as Theo Walcott and Dexter Blackstock. And I mean, at that time, though, Southampton had a cracking youth system down there, didn't they? I mean, I think Oxlade-Chamberlain also came out of that sort of area. I think Bell came out, didn't he, of Southampton at the time as well. So there's a lot of some big players in there, and you were part of that. Yeah,
that doesn't say anything about me. It says I played with superstars. That's what that
No, but I'm saying, but you've got to have been, what I'm trying to say is you've got to have been really, really good to be in that sort of clientele that's in there. You've got to be in a really, really good standard to be playing with the likes of those players.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you're not good enough, there's going to be a drop off, and it'll be really evident. And there wasn't. And so yeah, I joke, but you're right. For me to be able to swim with other, they're big sharks. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. The squad I was in, Chamberlain was a few years younger than me, so I never encountered him. But the youngest player in our team would have been Bale, Walcott, and Nathan Dyer.
Yeah,
those are Champions League winners, Premier League winners, and England international. So and like you say, I could reel off and name drop our squad. It was a who's who of players who have had remarkable careers, and it was, like I say, it was such a good time. My 4 or 5 years at Southampton were unbelievable in terms of a footballing experience. It was just I'd relive it over and over again if I could.
I was going to say, it must be like the dream job, going to work every morning.
Yeah,
around that,
Yeah. And we all lived together, and so you all muck in together. You're all on the same for the first 2 years at least. You're on the same contract, so you're really in it together at that point. You do become a family. At the weekends, you all travel to somebody else's city and stay with them and stay with their families over the weekend. So it's honestly for young guys, we're 16, 15 to 17, 18 years old, all through the coop. So all go through the same things. To share that, you get a bond, and there's pretty much from the 20 boys in that age group who you spend so much time with in those age groups, between 2 or 3 years, are probably still in good contact with the majority of them. So it does become a little your own, like I say, family away from family.
And that must be the inspirational speech for year 11s when they're about to leave.
Yeah, perhaps. Yeah.
What you can achieve. I mean, it's there. So I mean, it says that, according to this as well, of course, then you've been out on a couple of loans to Chester, to Yeovil, and to Tamworth, and then sort of moved on then to Oxford United. I mean, how did that come about, going back to Oxford from Southampton?
Well, probably those clubs you mentioned there, they're all significant for different reasons. So Chester was my first loan, and going there, I thought, okay, this is great. I didn't care about what level I was going to. I wanted to go and play first team football, first team league football. Given that opportunity at Chester, Ian Rush was the manager at the time, so I'm going there thinking,
wow,
here we go. I'm going to work with Ian Rush, and the assistant was a guy called Mark Hazelwood, who we'll probably speak about later on. They took me in, but I broke my leg, so I played one game, I think, and then in between we were given some time off. I went back down to train with Southampton, and broke my leg in training. So that probably, it stopped that immediate progression and development and opportunity to play games there.
Was that a bit? That must have been a real frustration for you. You know, you say you look at the excitement they're going to play with, play for someone like Ian Rush and then go in there and and break your leg. It must have been a bit. I suppose that must have been probably maybe your first low point.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was your first significant injury. I had things which loads of people have in terms of growing pains and flat feet, which mean I got no ligaments and anything like that. But yeah, that was the first one which put me out for a while. But like I say, with the Premier League standard of treatment, I was in an operating room the same day. By the evening, I think I was being operated on and had my legs screwed up. So I never had a plaster cast. I had screws in, and I was back almost fully fit within 3 months, which was quite amazing.
And then I say Oxford. I mean, one of the things that sticks out to me, and of course, if it's true, you can never be 100% true with Wikipedia. But it says here, you went back there, and it says on signing for Oxford, Eddie said, having played at Tamworth last season, I know I can play at this level and hopefully above that with Oxford in the future. In the following pre-season, that involved marking a certain player in a friendly against Manchester United at the K-Sim Stadium. Do you want to tell us who that player was?
Yeah, like I say, it was Cristiano Ronaldo, fresh off of the Euros, I think it was, where he got really sent off and gave him the wink. So he's just this time becoming the best player in the world, and this was his first game back on English soil. That has in recent years that's come around a lot, especially working with kids, and it's all about Ronaldo, and they talk about him a lot, and genuinely I've rarely ever talked about it. So I often, someone brings it up and I say, I don't like to talk about it just as a defence, but I genuinely haven't spoken about it very much at all. And it's just one of those things which has grown out of nowhere. Ronaldo was playing on my side. We actually had a really good game, and the team and myself personally, I played okay, played all right, and had him in my pocket a little bit. He'll tell you he scored 2 that day, but they happened when he was on the other side of the pitch.
I was going to ask you that. Do you tell the kids that you still got Cristiano in your back pocket?
Yeah, it comes up. But I just said it. That what was better that was, there was superstars all over the pitch, and we had a good game, and it was a good start to life at Oxford United, because it was the team that they'd just been relegated the season before, and like I say, to get friendlies, like I think we played Man United and Pompey in that pre-season, and with really big crowds. I think it was a sellout for the Man United game, and it was a big crowd for the Pompey game, and it was probably that momentum probably carried us through for the first half of the season.
It says here as well, you made your debut in a 2-0 win over Halifax Town on the opening day of the 2006 2007, competitive debut, beginning of 2006, 2007. Do you remember the day well?
Was it home or away?
It doesn't say. Oh, home. No, it does home. Oxford in a 2-0 home win over Halifax.
Yeah. I vaguely remember it. It was well, I do remember it. I remember it was hot, and you don't know, like you say, you don't know how good your team is or not until you play a league game, because of the friendlies are so false. You're not going to play Man U every week. You're not going to play Pompey every week. So you're not quite sure. I remember thinking, well, I can't remember how I felt about the level at the time, because as you mentioned, my time at Tamworth. So my loan at Tamworth happened while I was at Southampton. I was coming back from a broken leg. I trained superbly. I was doing really, really well. But my opportunities at Southampton were extremely limited in terms of trying to get to the first team, and I just needed to play football because I hadn't played for a while. My contract was running out. The reserve football at the time was actually really good, because you had first team players coming back from injuries or getting ready to go into first team. So reserve football was really good, but I was at the age where I can't keep playing reserve football for the rest of my life. So the opportunity to go to Tamworth just gave me life again. I absolutely loved it, and I got exposed to non-league football and the trappings of that. There was, like I say, the contrast from Southampton to Tamworth was a joke. There was no training grounds as such. We trained in different places every day. The Tamworth, I don't even think Tamworth were full time at the time, so it was this part-time hybrid, which I couldn't get my head around. I ended up training about 10 times a week because I was going from Southampton to Tamworth. I got one of the lads there, took me under his wing, AD Smith, experienced guy at the time, and I just had a great time with him. And there was really good characters there, like Bob Taylor, the old West Brom striker, was there. Really good characters, and Mark Cooper was the manager, and he looked after me really well. So that time, and we had an amazing FA Cup run. So I got to like the fourth round of the FA Cup with Tamworth, who were non-league in the conference. It was amazing. So that really gave me life again, and that like you said, it made me know I can play at the conference level, because I dealt with it really, really comfortably and fresh off an injury as well. So it just gave me confidence of, yeah, I can do this. So I had a bit of time out after that. I had a bit of time out after the game. I had a family bereavement, which obviously impacted me and my family significantly. It was my father passing. So coming back to Oxford after that time away, after that time out of football, it was I wanted to make it happen. I wanted to be at home, and I was given that opportunity, and it was gonna happen. Whatever happened with Oxford, whether they got stayed in the league or got relegated, I was always going to join them. Having met with Jim Smith, bless him, having met with Jim Smith, and so once that happened, it was, yeah. Once Oxford, I knew, because I worked with Jim at Southampton. You see, he was there as well. So once he was going to Oxford, I always had it in the back of my mind. Right, here we go. I can probably get back home now.
It says here, you scored your first goal in a 1-1 home draw against Cambridge on the 3rd of February 2007, and Eddie went on to score 2 further times that season in convincing away victories against his former club Tamworth, as well as a 3-0 win against Altrincham on the 17th of March. Made 47 appearances in all competitions during that season, as Oxford missed out on immediate return to the Football League after losing to Exeter in the playoff semi-finals. So a good season for you, even though it was a disappointing season in the end?
Yeah, it was, because I remember they brought me in, and like you say, I can imagine I'd have probably been one of the lower earners at the time, and I was 19 or something like that. So they're thinking, okay, we can get this kid in, just been released from a Premier League team. We can see what he get out of him, see how good he is and everything. And it so happened that once I started in pre-season, I never came out of the team. And I played literally, as you say, I made 47 appearances there. I played every single game, and I say my fitness really told, and we had a spell of playing with wing backs, and I was one of the wing backs, and it probably suited my game because I wasn't quite an fully accomplished defender, and I didn't have the final qualities which I developed as with more experience in the final third. So it suited me at times, but equally at times the Oxford Stadium was really full of one side, so your performance is good, you're amped up that side. It's so lonely on the other side when it's just the away fans, no one else there, and you're away from the benches over there. And sometimes you're playing wing backs where you're told to stay what. You didn't see the ball at times for ages. You just running up and down. And like I say, for a young player, probably your performance can go up and down because of simple things like that, and there may be more to it, but it's something you learn and deal with.
It's one of the weird stadiums as well now, though, isn't it? Because you've got one end where it's just a car park and there's no stand there. Every time I see it, it just looks really weird now. Every time you see Oxford on an Oxford game on the TV or highlights, it just seems a really weird stadium now with that one end completely missing.
Yeah, but at least they're filling it quite often these days, so it's definitely not a lonely place anymore.
It says in 2007-2008, you played your first game in the new season, a 1-0 win over Forest Green Rovers. And then it says Eddie's season was disrupted by an injury, missing 2 months of the campaign after sustaining a knee ligament injury in a 1-1 draw with York on the 30th of September. Was that the same leg as you broke, or the opposite leg?
Do you know what? I can't remember which leg it was, but I remember, again, it was niggling because I did it in a game, and I tried training on it through the week and just couldn't. It was funny because I couldn't walk properly, but running was quite comfortable. So Jim Smith was just saying, "Well, just keep running then." but literally, I couldn't walk up and down stairs, and I guess that was a point where I thought, okay, there is something serious going on here, and I had to take some time out. That season was so underwhelming, especially after even the first season, because we finished second after having a fantastic start, but we lost in the playoff final on penalties, which a playoff semi-final on penalties, which was absolutely gutting. And then the next season was just underwhelming. We finished maybe just outside the playoffs, I think it was, and it was just a non-entity of a season. We had a couple of manager changes, and we have a heavy change of players throughout my time at Oxford. There was players changed a lot, so it probably caught up with us in the end, and yeah, we just weren't good enough.
Since then, he moved on to Stevenage. Was offered a contract by Oxford at the end of the 2007-2008 season, but left to join Stevenage on the 14th of May 2008. Oxford owed compensation for the player due to his age. He stated it's a hard decision, but I'm going to stick to it. I don't know the reception I'll get at Oxford, but a move should benefit me. I mean, what was the thought moving into Stevenage then? I mean, how different was that to Oxford?
Thought process behind it was there was a bit of uncertainty at Oxford at the time. The managers have been changing. The information I was getting was that the manager wasn't getting supported or backed, and you've seen a couple of decent players leave, and Stevenage were going for they're just missed their perennial top of the table team. They had really good players, and they were going for other top players in the league, and they made aggressive about how they're approaching players. And I was one of the players who they were approaching quite aggressively, and they contacted me several times, and it was a huge wrangle to leave, and I didn't want to leave. Fundamentally, I didn't want to go, but I wanted to be somewhere, because my thought process, I always said, never leave Oxford for someone in the same division. It doesn't make sense to do that. Don't leave Oxford for someone. But ultimately, Stevenage's ambitions at the time exceeded Oxford's, which is probably mad to even contemplate, but it was at the time, and that'll probably go to show for how the results for the next two seasons of both teams. And because we at Stevenage, we got to Wembley twice, we won the conference, so it was a really successful time, and it was again, what I loved about it, we were just surrounded by good players, really good players the whole time, and good players who went on to do good things in the game as well, and a really challenging management team, really demanding management team, who by hook or by crook got the best out of a lot of players. Well, you got the best of nothing, basically.
What was that like though? You know, was getting somebody, and I lived this sort of in that sort of area, Stevenage, Waltham Abbey, Hertfordshire, that sort of area, not too far from where I am. I mean, what was it actually like getting, and it's no disrespect to Stevenage, but a small club like Stevenage into the Football League?
It was bittersweet. Not bittersweet. It was because I spent a couple of years pretty much in conflict at times with the manager. It's I'd say the times I've interacted with him since, I get on a lot better now than then. But it was it was a time, it was strange because I was super successful on the pitch, played some really, really good football. My game came on loads. But like I say, I became a better player, but it wasn't like I didn't get the same satisfaction from it at all than playing for Oxford or anywhere else, because for whatever reason, I just never integrated how I would have liked to.
I mean, it's when you start looking through this, you've got some real claims to fame. Cristiano Ronaldo, the situation at Southampton, and then also playing at Wembley as well, coming on as a sub in the FA Trophy final. Yeah.
Like I say, I had incredible highs at Stevenage, which it's just a shame that I wasn't engrossed in it when it was happening. Because the lads were absolutely tremendous, really good guys, and it was just one of those things where it wasn't. Had I gone there as an older player, I think I would have done fantastic, amazing things there. But going there at that age, I don't know, just didn't work out. Just didn't work out as I wanted it to.
But what was the Wembley day like, though, Eddie? I mean, what was it like for you? Going to? Can you remember much about it? The actual sort of, the sort of run up to actually getting to play at the, as people say, the home of football.
Again, I can't lie to you. It wasn't that significant to me at the time. It's only later on when I look at it, I remember what was good, what we done really good. We went to Wembley a day or two before the game, so we'd seen the dimensions of everything and looked around and sucked and had that that first feel when you step through the tunnel and everything. And so we had all that. So that was all out of the system. We knew where our families were going to be when they were watching. So all of that was there. And you just wanting to play, wanting so bad to play, and getting on at the time. For me, it was really good because, again, I've been in conflict with the manager for periods of the season. It wasn't all the time. I wasn't always in conflict. It was just times throughout the season where we'd be in conflict, and this is one of those occasions where I can't remember whether we were in conflict or not at the time, but I got on the pitch, and like I say, I feel like I contributed, but I didn't feel like it at the time. At the time, I didn't feel like my contributions were significant, or I definitely didn't enjoy them like the rest of the lads did, and you see them all valuing it. I didn't value it as much as I should, which is a huge. It's a shame to say, and a huge not a regret, but I just wish I enjoyed those times a bit more, because there's such a good group of lads who were so good as a team as well.
So, I mean, would you have said that another one is sort of, I know you said you've had loads of high moments, loads of sort of low moments. Was another sort of low moment when, Stevenage get promoted and then you get released?
Well, I did. I left. So that was probably a poor decision, a decision which I, looking back, probably would have made. I remember speaking to so Stevenage had a year option on me, an option for another year, which they exercised, but in a reduced capacity. So they offered me a short-term contract and stuff like this. And I remember speaking to Dino Mamria at the time. He was the assistant, and he said, "Whatever they offer you, take it, and then see where it goes." And for me, I didn't take that. I didn't take that advice. I thought I would chance my luck and go somewhere else, because I just couldn't face. I didn't want to, because I felt like I'd proved myself about 2 or 3 times at Stevenage, from the lows I come from and coming back up again. And I just felt like, if I try and do it again, what happens if I don't rise up this time? So I thought I'll go and chance my luck elsewhere.
That was Newport County.
Yeah, and that was brought on again. So that was a good. That was I had a good spell there for the majority of the time. My links to that was that a good friend of mine, Danny Rose, was playing for them. He had a really good relationship with the manager, Dean Holdsworth. He recommended him, and that's between that. I was signed up with them not much long after. I had opportunities to go elsewhere. I remember I was travelling up to a Nottingham Forest Swansea playoff match one time, and I was going up via Nottingham with my friend who lives up there, and I was going to sign for Mansfield. And as we're going up there, we hear on the radio that the manager's got the sack. So I'm scrambling, calling the assistant manager, saying, "Yeah, I'm still dead keen. I still want to sign. Trying to force this move over." He goes, "Ed, let me call you tomorrow. Meet me at the club tomorrow." So I'm like, "Oh, this didn't sound good." And we contact each other the next day, and he's still holding on in the morning, saying, "Oh yeah, if I get it, I'll keep you. I'll honour the contract and we'll sign you." But it's getting late in the day, and he's not inviting me up. So it kind of sealed it at that point. And then called me later and says, "Yeah, I'm not getting a job, and you're not," and I wasn't getting signed at that point. So yeah, and that's happened. You have a few close brushes and everything. But yeah, I got sorted out at Newport, and then that was their first season in the conference. Finished, really did well for the majority of the time there. the time Holdsworth was there, Dean Holdsworth was there, was brilliant. And again, I got my vibe back, and it was really good times. I was playing in midfield, doing all the running for Danny Rose, and then passing him the ball. So he was making me look like a good player, and it was great. But then Dean left. Did so well. He got a lead manager's job, and we had different management in, and it was at the end of that season I left again and went elsewhere.
And that place, of course, was Gateshead.
Yeah, really. Again, it was that move came out of, it was quite random. It wasn't until the last game of the season I was playing for Newport. We beat them 7-1, and I had a really good game. And the manager called me off the back of that after he'd done his research. And so I went up there. I remember me and my old mate Yemi Odhiambo, we went up there together. We'd followed each other around. So I joined him at Oxford. He joined me at Stevenage. He joined me at Newport, and then we drove up on the M1 up to Gateshead together. And I remember we got stuck on the road for like 8 hours, and we were in standstill traffic where everyone's out. And we got there up to Gateshead, and the manager he just said, right, we will put you in a hotel tonight, have some dinner, here's a couple of quid, go and enjoy Newcastle sights, and we'll talk tomorrow. So we did that. We woke up a bit worse for wear and couldn't wait to sign on the dotted line, basically, after a night out in Newcastle.
It says that made your debut in a 3-2 win over Kidderminster Harriers. 29 appearances in all competitions during that campaign. And then it says like released again there on the 30th of April at Gateshead.
Well, that's there you go. So that's significant, the 29 games, because I had one of those contracts where if you play that 30th game, it triggers a whole load of other things.
Yeah.
So got to 29 games, I remember it, and the manager just called me and said, Ed, we can't play you. And I wasn't surprised, because it happened to a player before me the week before.
Right.
So I was just spent the week waiting for the tap up. I wasn't sure. We were doing training, and we had avoided pattern of play, and then I'm thinking, waiting for the shape, whether to see whether they announcing it or not. And it was literally before we were going out to train, and he just pulled me and said, yeah, we can't play you again, because we were doing so well, doing really well. And then our striker John Shaw, he left. He was outstanding striker, one of the best I played with, but he got a move to Luton, and that really destabilized a little bit. And yeah, that I remember it. Just I was almost laughing when he was telling me, yeah, we can't sign you, we because of your 30th game, can't play you. So I was like, okay, but we still got a few games left. I was certain they were going to need me at some point, or use me again at some point. So I stayed around. I trained. Ended up basically playing reserve football in the midweek, and then training and using it as a social in the end, because it became clear I wasn't going to play. They dug their feet in, and I dug mine in, saying, you can't offer me a contract and then not honour it. I wasn't going to change my contract for anything. So it became, I stayed up there, and again, the boys who were up there with me were great. The boys up there from Gateshead were great, and the boys I was living with were in a house. They were superb, and I had really good fun, good times with them. But it was after that, I travelled up and down the country, and I'm thinking, okay, I've got to start finding a way home again.
I was just about to say that you seem to be heading further and further and further up the country, and then you've got to Gateshead, and now all of a sudden start to turn around and come back the other way. So, I mean, after Gateshead, it was Brackley Town.
Yeah, it was either Brackley or go to Azerbaijan.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So I was, I wasn't up for that. I
He's
did
going
think about
further
it.
away, yeah.
Yeah, I thought about it, and had the offers, but I wanted to get closer to home. Family was expanding, nephews and nieces and such, and I wanted to be around for that. So just crawled my way back home.
So Sid, Eddie signed for Conference North club Brackley Town 2012-2013. Made his debut on the 8th of August 2012 in a 4-0 win over Altrincham. Scored his first goal for Brackley 3 days later in a 5-0 win over Hinckley United. The goal was Eddie's first in nearly 2.5 years.
Yeah, I thought I was going to become a goal scorer midfielder at that point. Because it was, I was playing centre mid. I really fancied myself there, and said to the manager that's where I wanted to play. And it was good going to Brackley. There was a few old faces there from my times at Oxford and around playing in the conference. And we had a really good. It was one of those environments again where everybody played for each other and everyone just knew their roles. It was almost, we had this really small, tight-knit squad, and you could almost pick the team every week, and people knew their roles, and like I say, we weren't the most. We were just relentless in what we did, and had really good people on and off the pitch, and a really good change room. And we just I don't know, took teams by surprise a little bit and stormed it. And we, like I say, it was at the time was Brackley's highest ever finish. I got Player of the Year for the supporters Player of the Year, and we had a super season, and played some really good players. So it was a really good time.
I mean, it says here at the end of the season, as you said, Player of the Year. I mean, moving on from there, then went on to North Leigh, which of course is where you are now. You started off as a player coach, but what really fascinates me is the season just gone at North Leigh. What a fantastic season it's been for yourself. Is you sort of still, is your position still player coach now, or is it manager? Have you given up the playing part?
No, COVID retired me. As soon as that, I could handle 6 weeks off. When it came 6 months, there was no chance I was getting fit again for that. So I stopped playing at that point, and it coincided with being offered the role as manager. So I put all eggs into that basket of coaching and managing, and it's, like I say, I pretty much try most things in football. So I do a lot of commentary work. I do a lot of pastoral work. I do a lot of coaching as well. So I like to try a lot of things and see where my niche is and what I like doing. And managing, coaching was never on my radar really, until I started being a player coach and seeing how effective you can be in that role. So when the opportunity to manage North Leigh came up, it was just the timing was right. And you talk about this season. It's been, the season just gone was fantastic. I think we've exceeded all expectations. And it was how it went, how it ended. It was unforgettable.
You couldn't have dreamt it, could you? The way it finished. It's like a movie.
Yeah, it was like, you couldn't write that. You couldn't write that as a film script to make it believable. So it was exciting on the bench.
I mean, what was the plan going into this season though that's just gone? I mean, what was the plan? Was it to get to the playoffs? Was it to get automatic? Was it just to mid-table survive? I mean, what was the actual plans between you and your management team and and the directors and at the club? I mean, what was the plan at the very beginning of the season? Where was you expecting to finish?
There was continuous conversation. So I remember at significant points I was told, like at the start, we want to avoid a relegation battle, because the season curtailed and we were bottom of the league, 1 point, and we're having a shocker. So it was, yeah, avoid the relegation battle, and then which is okay. I've got my expectations and standards a lot higher than that, so my conversation quickly changed and said, to make it, we need to be competitive, and then we kept reviewing it. So every 6 games or so, I'd meet with my staff and the board and stuff and say, right, this is what the next target is. This is what our ambitions are here. So it was ever evolving, because based on the scenario we were in, it meant we had different expectations. So, for example, with the last game, we're going into it, and we have to win against a team who are already relegated to make the playoffs. Now, if you're telling me you can't do that in the last game of the season, and you almost don't deserve to be in the playoffs, and that was the attitude for that last game, and it backfired massively, because we lost the game, got absolutely schooled, and bullied, which doesn't happen to us, and it was a really low feeling. And then we get the communication the next day that Welling, bless them, the team who finished above us, can't compete in the playoffs, so therefore we'll take their place. It was at that point where you think, okay, this might be written for us.
And I mean, I was only speaking, to Nick the other day on one of these shows the other day, and we had a sort of a conversation about what had happened, and he said it was a bit like a film script, and it was just like one day you were in, next day they were in, next day you were in, next day they were in, and you just didn't know what was going on. And as I said to you before, I think when we had a chat before, it was one of those things where I just saw you winning it the minute you were in it, if you know what I mean. Once Welling sort of were told they couldn't take part in the playoffs, I just had that feeling that you were going to end up and win it. But talk me through the final. I mean, because there was 2 goals in there that were absolutely like, almost contenders for goal of the season, weren't they?
Oh yeah, it was. It was the first goal from George. So the game, I think it's fair to say that we were in control for such a long part of it, and we were the better team for such a long part of it, for about a good 80 minutes. And in that time, George Nash, who doesn't even score in training, he hits one first time from 30 yards out, and it screams into the top corner. And such a great moment. Couldn't have happened to a nicer bloke, and what a hit. And then you see our right back, reluctant right back, because he's a different position by trade. He pops up and hits one as clean as you like, and you're directly behind it, and he's in the crowd afterwards celebrating. And then so that's after about 82 minutes, and 86 minutes, it's 2-2, and you can see the 2 shabby goals.
What was your feelings then, though, Eddie? I mean, because I was sitting listening to it. I was trying to get there and I couldn't get there. Something happened at home and I couldn't get there. But I was actually listening to it on the radio. And at 2-2, I'm thinking to myself, well, he's only going to be one winner here, possibly. Where's going to go on and win this now? Because they've got it back from 2-0 down, back to 2-2. They've probably got the momentum going into the last few minutes of the game. And then before I've almost got it out of my mouth to my wife sitting on the sofa, you popped up and put 2 more in. It was just an incredible finish to the game.
It was, do you know what? I was calm. I was calm at that point. So it happened against Burko in the semis when they scored really late. I was really, really calm, and they seemed to exhaust themselves in the celebrations. It got really, they had really vociferous celebrations, understandably. But I guess where they lost their focus, we got ours back, and the same thing happened against where we're celebrating, and I can't lie, I wasn't as calm this time. I was more angry. But again, the celebrations gave us an opportunity to regroup and say what the next job was, the next thing was. And I've watched it back now, and it is from the centre where they've equalised to go 2-2. You'd probably expect a team to just see out to it. From the centre, we go forward, and then the next pass is forward, and then the next pass is in behind, and then there's a ball comes on the pitch and stops the game. So we have one of those uncontested drop balls, and it's the best thing which happened is our player Mersey, he doesn't even think, the ball bounces, he puts it into the box, and that was brilliant, and it just put them there where they had all this momentum and thought they were going for it. We just pegged them back, and it probably it was like we just kept jabbing them back, and it probably took its toll on them, because they were thinking, okay, we're going to go and steamroll them here, and we just like I say, we got our focus back, and then the old man Jeff pops up with a couple.
2 good goals as well, I must admit. Maybe not as stunners as the other 2, but he probably gets forgotten about those 2 goals at the end. But they were good goals, good goals indeed. But listen, mate, the one thing I'd say to you and to your club is how hard-working that either yourself is, but also as well your media team. I mean, your media team are unbelievable. I mean, it's not a day goes past when there's not about 7 or 8 notifications on my phone from them, like every single day. It's incredible, you know. And you seem to have such a camaraderie in the club. You can see that from the press team to yourself talking to you today. The club seems to be on a massive high.
Yeah, they're relentless. They are. They work hard in every house. The media team, they run out of battery on frequently. But it's what you got to do as like I say, it's a small village club, and if we're not talking about what's good and promoting what's good about us, it's going to be difficult to get it out there. Yes, they're frequent in their content, but their content's good, and it's relevant, and it's impactful. So it's not just it's not spouting or talking up something which isn't true. What they release is a fair reflection of what North Leigh is like. So that's why I say, yeah, more power to it.
Well, listen, Eddie, I won't keep you anymore. And can I only just finish with a massive thank you for joining us today on My Life. It's been an absolutely fantastic chat. One of my favourites, I must admit. It has been brilliant. Stay on. But for everybody else, a massive thank you for watching again today. We'll be back with Steve Baker from Harrow Borough in our next episode of My Life in Football. But from me and from Eddie, for today, good night.